Biggest memory is just the fellowship of the members and the fun we had and the work we've done and what we've accomplished. But I think when I look back at how it started, and from Jerry Lavisser, our very first project is probably the one that set the bar for the club, and that was, I believe, selling a boat at the time. And it was an expensive boat, and the tickets were rather expensive. They were either $200 or $300 a ticket, and everybody thought, we're not going to be able to do this. But we did a number of events outside, and the end result was we did do it, and we got off to a really good start with raising funds. More than that, though, we found out that you can set a high bar, and our club was able to rise to that level and accomplish things. So I think right from the beginning, that was the one that everybody went, I'm not sure we can do this, but we did it. And I think from then on, it was pretty much can do what we want. I think it's critical. I think the one thing about having that, the fellowship, was when you were on a project, you did not want to let the other person down. So if you had to do a part, then you did your part, because it was everybody chipping in to get it done. So it was very important that everybody accomplish what they said they would do. So do what you said you would do. And that allowed us to take on some pretty good big projects that are going today with the Lobster Night. That's probably the most fun I've had on an initial project, was working on that one. That one is like it happened yesterday, literally is. We had a lot of fun working on it. We had big goals. I think the goal that year was try to do $10,000. That would have been a success for us. But right from the beginning, Gary Wetch always joked that, what if the lobsters don't get there on time? And sure enough, when we got everything put together that Saturday morning when we were doing the setup, he comes in and said, guess what, guys? The lobsters aren't here. And we all said, yeah, right, sure, Gary. Sure enough, they weren't here. So I guess of all the things I've done in the community, that one sticks out in my mind as it was, you talk about it and it comes about. Maybe we shouldn't have been talking about it, but it ended up being the neatest thing about the Lobster Night, is how that history started and how the event became what it was. Getting that lobster, doing it late. Nobody was upset. It was like that's the way it was supposed to be. And, well, it was tradition, right? And we did raise 20-some thousand, I think 20 or 22,000 that year. So, again, we set a bar, we raised it, and, well, they've raised it significantly since. I think you always have to be able to look at what's happened and not look at the negative point of it. It's happened for a reason, and regardless, it's happened, so you have to deal with it. And panicking doesn't help anybody. You just have to say, okay, where are we now? And we got to carry on. And I think with Rotary, there were so many of those projects throughout the years where we went, this is pretty big goal, and things always happen. But you learn how to adapt to it. And I think in your business life, it's very important. You can't just get frustrated, because frustrating does no good. You stop thinking once you're frustrated. And I think Rotary allowed you to really think things through and go, okay, so what do we do now? And I think that's the important part. And with Rotary, there were so many different individuals and different styles of leadership. Like, I don't think there could have been too many years we couldn't have picked anybody out of the club to be president, and we would have done okay. I think it's quite important, and that's the neat thing about Rotary, is it's based on a classification which most clubs aren't. Everybody can join, and it's not that Rotary everybody can't join. It's you had the classification and they had to go through that one to get in. So if you had 2 engineers or 2 lawyers or 2 life insurance agents. I guess when we started we didn't know the actual total rules, but you had to have somebody nominate that person from that category. And I think when you're looking at that, my biggest lesson on that was from Jerry Lavisser on nominating people. I'd recommended somebody from a category and I had to go through Jerry, and his first response was, like all of us, you don't want somebody from your maybe your category, if it's life insurance or whatever it is, you may be a little too defensive on that. And his initial response was, well, I'm not sure about that. And we were sitting at lunch one day and he walked out, came back in, and he sat down, he said, that's going to be a very good member. And that was a real good lesson for me, is to say, yeah, he thought about it and put everything aside and said, yep, that will be a good member for our club. It was done as basically the city, the Rotary, and the Chamber. And I wouldn't say that it was the smoothest running one at that point. But it was critical to have Rotary, because Rotary actually had established that, and there was another project to take on, like right off the beginning, to build a building. It was like, you got to be kidding me, we're going to do this, and we did it. And the Rotary actually had a really good relationship with the city as well. So I think that combination made it possible, because I don't know that the Chamber at that time would have done it by themselves. And that's something we're working on now, as a new building committee, and talk to Rotary about it. But Rotary initially on that, it was very, very crucial to have them involved, because it did get done. And the 3 of us working together, we learned how to work together. It's different when you bring in a city and a Rotary and a Chamber. They're all working from different governing bodies, the way they work. You'd think it would be easy, but it wasn't as easy. It did get done. It's worked out really well. The Chamber's been very, very lucky. The Rotary made a very good deal with the Chamber, so overall we did very well. We couldn't have done it without them. There's no question about that. And I think it's been a very good relationship since. Club, because it was more your local community area, and that's always been, I've always been involved in the community, whether it's the Chamber or the Rotary or the hockey or any sport that I've coached, which are most of them. So that was, to me, the area that I was most interested in. What are we doing in our community? The other areas are very important, and I really enjoyed the exchange program. I had a couple of students with me over the years. That was phenomenal. But for me, it was just community. The skateboard park, I think, was very important, because that was a group of kids that really needed some support, and I think the Rotary lending the support to that group, which if you're on the outside looking at it, you might look at it and say, that's not the group of people from the community that they look and say, do you want to support that? But I think the Rotary had the vision that we can make it something better and safer, and get involved with the kids, as opposed to just saying, you know what, we don't want to be involved in that. I think that takes a lot of courage from a club to say that's an area we're interested in. When you have youth with the leaders, I think they learn what leadership is about. And I think it connects us as we get older to the youth, and you don't lose that sense of, I think the neat thing about Rotary is it's not a bunch of old guys or old ladies. They still have a youthful demeanor about them. And I think that's what makes connecting with youth a lot easier, and that's why our exchange programs are so good, is we do tend to relate. And through my coaching, I think I've always been a coach. And I love coaching younger people or anybody. But younger people, you have that vitality, and it helps you be younger as well, and to see what challenges they have. And I think as much as we can do with youth, the better off we are and they are, because they get to see what leadership is about, and we get to see what their concerns are, and they're actually really good kids. Sometimes they get off on the wrong path, but they're not necessarily bad people. They just need to get redirected, and I think we can play a big part in that. When I grew up, I played hockey for the Lions Club. You started with the Lions Club, you went through your bantam, your midget, your juvenile, and you stayed with that club. And then there was the Legion, the ACT, all those organizations had programs for hockey and other sports. I think if we want to get the word out about Rotary, a Rotary hockey, ball, those things at some level would really get the word out what Rotary is, but it would really help the youth, because sports seems to be the thing everybody gets involved in. It's not that we couldn't go anywhere else, but that might be a very good tie-in with community as well. Really not setting the bar low, set the bar high, and not be afraid to challenge yourself and take on projects, or I guess in my field, whatever success it is, it depends how you rate the success. I don't rate it by money, but I do rate it by the quality of my clients. And I think Rotary, in that level, they've always set high expectations and high bars, and the four-way test, it's still over there somewhere. I still believe in the four-way test, and I think that, of all the things that we do, which is kind of the way it starts, I think those four values are the best thing for a business person, is it the truth? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? I think those tenets are what will make you successful, and what will keep you balanced and on target. So if you go through them, I think of all the things Rotary does, that's the four-way test is critical. Find a good mentor. Somebody that is where you'd like to be, but has the same, somebody that you can respect for what they stand for, and how they act, and how they interact with people. To me, that's very, very important, is align yourself with the right people. I know when I look at youth or anybody today, the first thing I look for is, how do they carry themselves? Are they courteous? Do they have manners? Those kind of things. Because those people always seem to be able to get along with somebody, and it takes so little to make an impression on anybody these days. Because I think we've lost a lot when you're out there in your day-to-day travels. You see people you'll stop, you'll go over into the curb, and they'll drive by and not even think to even go, thank you very much. And you mentioned 10 youth going along, and you may have an opinion of them, right or wrong, but I'll tell you what, if they're walking across the road in front of you, and they all walk across the road and they don't look up, and they ignore you, your opinion right there is a negative one. If just one of them says, thanks for stopping, your opinion of that person. I don't care if they got rings in their ears, tattoos everywhere. You just made an about face and said, well, that's a nice kid, or a nice adult. It doesn't take much. So I think it's really important when they're starting out that they get aligned with the right people in mentoring. And I think as Rotarians, that's a big part of what we do, is set standards and what it should be. And again, that four-way test comes into play on that one. They've done such a good job of everything they've done now. I guess it's not getting complacent. It's still trying new areas and still pushing yourself, and keep doing the things they're doing, because this is a phenomenally successful club. They should be really proud of 20 years. And when I think of the Lobster Night from where it was to what it is now, it's mind-boggling what they do in one evening. And it's not just one evening, they're so prepared for it as it goes along, and that allows you to do a lot of stuff with your money and in all the avenues of service. So I think it's keep doing what they're doing, keep recruiting good solid memberships, maybe stay in touch with the past presidents and members more. I've got into this, and maybe it's just, if somebody is not showing up, it's show that you're there for them and you're concerned about them, because I think in the past that maybe has been some of the things where people have left and maybe didn't want to, and if somebody had just reached out and said, you know what, come on back in, and bring them back in, I think that would help. Especially this particular club. Rotary in general is phenomenal. This club has been a very big part of this community, right from day one, whether it's the blood donor clinics, the women's shelter, all those things. I think they've filled a very big need in this community, and the members should be very proud of being a member of this club, the history of the club, and I think going forward, sky's the limit. Because I know if there's one thing Rotary will do, they will push the limits to get to the next level, and they're always looking for ways to get involved in the community. So congratulations on 20 great years, and I'm sure there's 20 more great years coming up.